with the process of becoming more aware and eventually standing as the free beings of light we actually are in the real universes of the ears, is the necessity of becoming fully conscious of everything that binds us to creation, all the agreements and emotional attachments, the taplines that have us anchored to the simulators, most of which we have been unconscious of, that stem from all the various lifetimes we have lived, that then are in the subconscious of our created selves. As I have shared on previous real side experiences, as we release these old taplines from lifetimes lived beyond our current available memory body references of this lifetime, we tend to get the imagery, scenes and situation flashbacks that occurred during the lifetime these taplines we now are identifying and releasing were established. We also are constantly needing to address those agreements and attachments we have in our current lifetimes, which can be those we have consistently clung to for many eons, as the personal self is rather routine and habitual, deriving comfort through that which is familiar, its habits, drives, and ambitions. And of course, we must maintain awareness of what we are agreeing to on a moment-by-moment basis, a practice of watching our thoughts and where our intent lies. We are at least then conscious of these current lifetime cause and effect creating agreements, as we understand how the process works, and in the meantime we continue our process of uprooting all the taplines we are unconscious of and releasing them from the subconscious. And so, with those taplines we are conscious of from this lifetime, we can experience on the real side the scenes and situations that transpired at the time of their inception, and at least we can better understand them, as they will not be from lifetimes past, that we have no current personal self-accessible memory reference for. Sometimes the specifics may not necessarily be made apparent as to the agreement taplines we are identifying and releasing, but more the general, overall nature of them, as in this real side experience I will share now. For I would find myself crawling through a very dark and dense forbidding jungle, accompanied by a woman. Such places as this, especially coupled with the sense of foreboding, as per my impressions, would suggest a spot in the most unsavoury area of creation, the lower astral. A place where, should you find that this is your position in life, you must have been deciding on and agreeing with some rather restricting and non-beneficial ideas indeed, for this is the realm of entities, demons, reptilians, werewolves, vampires, and other equally as unsavoury characters and beings. Your positioning in life, reflecting your decisions and choices, as everything equals itself. I had the sense that this was an experience of working through the personal self, of identifying and releasing taplines, for we both would be crawling through dense and dark vegetation, and much by way of snake-like binding vines would be reaching for me and attempting to snag me as we proceeded. My female companion was, however, unhindered, and indeed was leading the way. My impression was that she was a real guide, and I had accepted her assistance in this real side removing of the personal self taplines experience. Guides can, of course, only assist us if we free will accept their help. We must be willing, and also willing to release the taplines, or we would simply retain them by our want to cling onto them. So, even though the specific nature of the taplines was not apparent, the very place we were in suggested where these taplines stemmed from, the emotional body. So they were emotional attachments then, which is the astral level, and in this case, specifically, the lower astral. So I had perhaps taken on a few agreements, or had taplines I was unconscious of, that bound me to this forbidding place, and as I followed the guide, we were moving upwards, almost moving vertically, and defying gravity, as the tendril-like vines reached for me, but I would brush them aside, that they would not secure a hold. Agreement and attachment idea vines, representing taplines that I was passing through and dismissing, and we scaled ever upwards, as though extricating myself from this place, and ensuring there was nothing that bound me to it in any way. And indeed, The surroundings became less dense and dark the higher we went, but it seems perhaps there were a few attachments that did bind, that still needed addressing, that I hadn't yet released. For it is a process and quite the journey to get through the personal self. So one step at a time. You wouldn't want to take all the teddy bears away from the personal self all at once. And so these vines seized me, and I could proceed no further, and indeed I would lose my footing and fall back down the vertical climb for what seemed like an eternity. I would come to land in a heap, in a clearing in this lower astral dense forest, unharmed, however, and standing off to the side, still with me, was the real guide. By her very presence, I surmised then that despite a few setbacks, my real intent to continue on was retained, or she would not be there. For naturally, after that tumble, and having determined what the experience represented, the personal self would run through an array of concerns, considerations, fears and worries, as to if the journey to the ears was forfeited, if the opportunity was lost, etc., etc. And so the guide was there almost as a reassurance for the personal self, for despite errors, miscalculations, and tapline removing issues, if the real intent is maintained, and we decide to continue on, then the process of recognizing the ears rolls onwards. Although we do need release every tapline idea, agreement, attachment, if we are to be liberated from cause and effect creation. Interestingly, a strange portal manifested in the clearing also, and what emerged was a reptilian. He was elaborately dressed, and had an air of authority about him, a sense of power and creational agreement to this position of established power. A typical reptilian in appearance, with his green scaled skin, elongated lizard-like face, and my impression was that he was a reptilian of some standing, though one of ill-orientated intent and dark forces affiliation. He grinned at me, and gestured to a chest that now stood in the centre of the clearing, and as I approached and looked within, I could see a small baby. This baby was me, or more precisely, represented a potential future lifetime, and indeed this reptilian would proclaim that when I assumed the next lifetime as this new baby, that he would ensure I was a slave. Well, everybody in creation are restricted, cause and effect prison yard slaves. So he wasn't telling me anything I didn't know. But this did press home the point of the importance of dealing with these taplines now, for if we retain any, we must experience their effects, and retained taplines, after this lifetime is completed, will have us the effects of them again, as we project into future lifetimes. I doubt the reptilian was presenting this actuality for my benefit, for he seemed very smug, almost gleeful. But then the real guide stepped forward and slammed the chest lid. She shook her head, as though negating the reptilian's words, as though indicating that this wasn't the case, and in fact this reptilian was trying to instill further fear and doubt into my personal self. That yes, we do need to release all creation binding taplines, but we're fine as long as we maintain our focus and real intent, our real purpose, which is to recognize the ears. And as Dwayne says, that could take 1,000 years. We can't be putting time limits on such a monumental journey.
We're always presented with these funny little things, aren't we, Kevin? Yes, so you see that kind of trying to tempt you a little bit. Yes, always. Yes. Making that decision or whatever. But again, these people are bored. So onward we go.
This planet Earth needs a lot of help from all of us right now. Dean Val of NuUU, Nations United Universal University, is contacting people around this world every day to share the importance of the all-natural environment supporting all of us. Dean Val and Dwayne Lee Hepner.org 501c3 have created CAN, Community Action Network, to help all communities become aware of how to be self-sufficient with permaculture and food and rainforests. We are always looking for real people to step up, who want to learn what life on this earth is all about. We will be leasing large portions of land to create something wonderful for all communities everywhere. Contact Val Vitals on Skype and Facebook to get involved with what we all can do now. or through the phone number provided, or the website in the links. Dwayne the Great Writer.net. Join us for weekly environment awareness Skypes every Sunday at 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The NuUU Nations United Universal University is dedicated to supporting and providing a real purpose and real awareness with the all-natural environment supporting all of us. First comes this earth with food and rainforests, and to protect what is still here. For those who have the awareness to see what is actually taking place here, with all the natural devastation, which is also purposely planned by world controllers, you now have a real opportunity to step up and do something with those who also care about your planet Earth. Dwayne Lee Hepner has created the NuUU Nations United Universal University, which completely entails the all-natural environment everywhere, and a real education that has real value, and that far surpasses any commonly created indoctrinating educational system that does not focus on what sustains all of us naturally. Real survival makes sense with everything here that is self-sustaining,